Legacy Rubystorm just got a brand new toy, Will of the Jeskai from Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander. Well, let's go check it out. In front of you is the list that we'll be playing today. Legacy Rubystorm featuring Will of the Jeskai. Well, what is this new exciting card? Well, for 3 and a red, you get to choose one. And you can do both if you have a commander, but there's none of those in Legacy, so we're just only going to talk about the Legacy application today. So the first mode is each player may discard their hand and then draw 5 cards. The second mode is each instant and sorcery in your graveyard gains flashback, so similar to Past in Flames. But unlike Past in Flames, against Graveyard Hate, this card has another mode. And right now in Legacy, there's a lot of Graveyard Hate due to Oops All Spells and Reanimator, among other things. So I like the fact that Will of the Jeskai has this mini mode wheel. And I call it a mini mode because normal wheel effects like Wheel of Fortune draw 7. Will of the Jeskai draws 5, but drawing 5 is still quite good, and I think that this versatile card makes a lot of sense in a deck like Rubystorm, where sometimes you don't really need, to play cards out of your graveyard because there's not enough mana in there or not enough payoffs, but the draw 5 could actually be quite good. So Will of the Jeskai is a card we're playing 4 of today, 3 in the main deck and then 1 in the sideboard. That's because we play 4 copies of Burning Wish along with 2 copies of the card Wish altogether. So you have 6 ways to play the card out of the sideboard and then 3 ways to draw it in the main deck. I like that quite a bit, but this is causing a change. We're not going to play Overmaster today. In my previous video that you can find in the card above, I played Overmaster, and the idea was that it was a card you could reveal off of the ultimate of Rail Monsoon Mage. Okay, well that makes sense, and it draws a card in matchups where it's not good. Well, it was fine, but ultimately I didn't feel like it actually protected our combo that well. So today we're playing Defense Grid instead, which protects your draw 5s with Will of the Jeskai. So if you give your opponent 5 cards, you're still protected in order to win the game. On top of that, for the 2 mana that it costs, it makes removal cost more mana, so that way your Rail Monsoon Mage is more likely to transform into the Planeswalker side. So things like Swords to Plowshares and Lightning Bolt aren't going to be as effective against you. So I think Defense Grid does a lot of heavy lifting today, and that's what I'm at least hoping to see. On top of that, when you're running Sandstone Needle and Ancient Tomb, you're going to be able to accelerate into this Defense Grid more easily. And I think that's another reason to play this card over Overmaster. So those are the big changes that we're playing today. I also put 1 copy of Jeska's Will into the sideboard. I felt like it was a slot or a card that I wanted to see in the sideboard of the previous video. I wanted to be able to use Burning Wish to go get a card that generated mana, and I felt like Will of the Jeskai made a lot of sense there. Speaking of the sideboard, we have another change there today. So there's no copy of Reforged the Soul and no Past in Flames. That's because Will of the Jeskai essentially does both, because the first mode is your draw spell, and the second mode is your Past in Flames. Will the Jeskai is both Reforged the Soul and Past in Flames in one, so you get to open up a sideboard slot. When you do that, I get to put Jeska's Will there. But on top of that, we cut Elemental Eruption because I felt like we haven't needed it, and instead we're playing the 4th copy of Leyline of the Void. You have Empty the Warrens, which in my previous video I just realized that Elemental Eruption and Empty the Warrens was just too redundant. It wasn't what I actually wanted out of my sideboard. So today we're playing 4 Leyline of the Void for those fast matchups that I talked about, like Oops All Spells, for example, along with the 2 copies of Mindbreak Trap. So that's enough of me rambling and ranting. Hopefully you enjoyed this slightly longer deck tech today. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you appreciate this Legacy Rubystorm content featuring the new card from Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander. That's all I've got for now. I will see you in the first round. Don't go anywhere. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can also show your support by becoming a member of this channel. You get sweet perks such as badges, emotes, early access to videos, exclusive members-only content, and access to our members Discord section. As you increase the tiers, there are other rewards such as shop discounts, sideboard guides, and even free donation decks. Click the join button down below to find out more. We also have other ways you can support us, like theepicstorm.com/shop or submitting a donation deck via theepicstorm.com/donation decks. That's enough for now. Let's play some Magic. Round number 1, we're on the draw and we're facing community member Velgrim, who typically plays a lot of Storm, but I know that recently they've been experimenting with some creature tribal decks, so we'll see what they're playing today. I have no idea. But I've opened up a hand that I think is quite good, and we're going to try it out. Marsh Flats, okay. Spicy. Defense Grid. I don't know what they're playing, so we'll play the Defense Grid on turn 1 here. Force of Will, exiling some card I've never heard of before. Zur Eternal Schemer? I'm not going to read all of that. I don't think that card's relevant. Let's just continue playing our game. And then they search out a Triome. Okay. Spicy. Chandra. Scion of Draco. Okay. They have 2 cards remaining in their hand. I'll play a Mountain. I'll go to 16. We'll play Ren's Resolve. A Rite of Flame and a Sandstone Needle. We'll pass the turn. They play Savannah. And now they attack for 4. I'll go to 12. They pass. I'll play Rite of Flame. Play the Sandstone Needle. And I think I'll go to 10. Let's play Reckless Impulse. 2 lands. That wasn't great. And now we'll play another Reckless Impulse. Burning Wish and Defense Grid. Pass the turn. I can play those cards on the following turn. So with the attack from Scion of Draco, I will go to 6. And then we need to untap and try to win. 3 mana, 4 mana. Leyline of the Guild Pact with 1 card in hand. Sure. So I don't need to play the Defense Grid now, because there's no card that they could play for free that I care about. I'll start by going to 4. We'll play Seething Song. I'll play the Ancient Tomb. We'll go to 2 life. Let's play Manamorphose. And then I'll make 2 red mana. Will of the Jeskai. I love that. Okay. I was actually thinking I was going to Burning Wish for it, but now I don't need to. Let's view our sideboard really quickly to see if there's anything I could play here off the Wish that I care about. Alright, they're at 22. So if I play Wish, or I could play Burning Wish. So I have 8 mana. I could go Burning Wish, Grape Shot. That leaves me with 4 mana. Will of the Jeskai, Rite of Flame. I'm 1 mana short of Seething Song, so I don't think I want to make that play. I'm just trying to make sure I think of all of my possible lines here. I think I'm supposed to just play the Will of the Jeskai. Each instant and sorcery gain flashback. Will of the Jeskai on the stack. Look at this. Brand new card from Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander. And I'm going to leave the Rite of Flame in the graveyard in case we find another one later this turn. That way the future Rite of Flames will make more mana. And I'll play a Manamorphose. We'll make 2 red. Storm is 5. Jeska's Will. Let's play Reckless Impulse. Another Will of the Jeskai, but we're short on mana here. I'll play Reckless Impulse. From 7. Another Manamorphose. We are really low on mana. We've seen over a third of our deck, and we've seen 1 Rite of Flame and 1 Seething Song. I might actually fizzle here. And I'm at 2 life, so if I pass the turn, I lose. So if I Rite of Flame into Manamorphose, I could theoretically... I guess I could just Manamorphose first in case I draw into Seething Song. Maybe I'll do that. Storm 8, Manamorphose. We'll make 2 red. Another Reckless Impulse. We also haven't seen any Ruby Medallions either. That would have made this turn a lot easier. We only have 1 Grape Shot in the sideboard. I can't block the Scion of Draco with Empty the Warrens. I think I'm supposed to just Ren's Resolve here. See what we hit. And I bricked. I did not hit any more mana, so we lose game number 1. We saw a lot of cards this game to just fizzle. I could still play the Rite of Flame, but I'm dead on board. Bummer. I feel like that is a game that got away from me there. Slide down our sideboard so we can, or slide down our deck so we can see our full sideboard. I don't think I want to make any changes. I mean, I could bring in Blast Zone, but I don't expect the deck with Cascade spells to have permanent hate. I could be wrong. I'm just going to resubmit. So we had 6 other rituals to hit, and Jeska's Will wasn't good because our opponent didn't have a hand. Felt a little unlucky. Like, if I had hit Ruby Medallion or Rail Monsoon Mage earlier, then I think we saw 3 Manamorphose, then those could have made mana, and then we wouldn't have been paying full value on all of our spells. So it just felt like an odd game. Okay, game number 2 on the play. We have another turn 1 defense grid. I enjoy that, so we'll keep this. Our opponent with a fast mulligan to 5. Okay, so we'll play the Ancient Tomb and Defense Grid. Another Force of Will, exiling Lorien Revealed. Pass the turn. Windswept Heath. Jeska's Will. Obviously worse when our opponent mulligans to 5 and plays turn 1 Force of Will. And it looks like they're lacking a second land here. Rite of Flame. I'll play my mountain and let's play Ren's Resolve. Floating 1 colorless mana. Another defense grid. I would like to play that. We have 1 red floating. That resolves. I'll pass the turn. So next turn we can do something. Because our opponent would have to answer the defense grid on their turn in order to stop us. So they grab another Triome. Scrub land. So they drew a land this turn. And Leyline Binding. Okay, so they found the answer. Well, they found the land for the answer, I should say. We'll play the mountain. They have 3 cards in their hand. I think I'm going to just be patient here. So I think I want to play the Jeska's Will for the exile the top 3 card mode. But you have to play those cards this turn. And I think I don't want to risk... Ooh, they're an Up the Beanstalk deck. Okay. I don't want to risk not being able to play a land off there, and I played a land last turn. Another mountain. Well, Jeska's Will with the mode of exile the top 3. We found another land. So if I want to play the Seething Song, I'm going to have to lose my Sandstone Needle. But I think that might be worth it. We'll play Seething Song. And now we will play Jeska's Will to exile the top 3. I'll have 3 mana available after that. Rite of Flame, Reckless Impulse, Burning Wish. We'll play the Rite of Flame. Let's play the other Rite of Flame. And now we can Burning Wish, floating 4 mana. So I could empty the Warrens for 14 here. I mean, that seems pretty good to me. We'll grab Empty the Warrens. We'll play it for 14 goblins. Excuse me, I'm still getting over being sick. I don't mean to sniffle in my video, but sometimes I can't help it. I've been sick for like 3 weeks. I actually mentioned it in the video I recorded last week. It's just, I have some sort of virus that won't go away. I'm taking medicine. It's only so good. All right, they tap for a blue. What do you have now? Is this the Zur card that I don't want to read? It might be. Shardless Agent. Okay, so this is going to find Crashing Footfalls. No, it finds Up the Beanstalk. That would make more sense. Okay. We'll play our mountain. And let's attack. Hiya! Swing, batter, swing. So they'll block and take 13 down to 5. And they just conceded instead. That works for me. Okay, so an interesting deck. Shardless Agent plus Up the Beanstalk. I still like our main deck configuration. I'm just going to submit. Game number 3. Our opponent has mulliganed. We will keep. I have turn 1 Ruby Medallion this time. Leyline of the Guild Pack, so that means that they have a turn 1 Leyline Binding possibly. They play Meticulous Archive. They get to Surveil. They kept the card on top. Ren's Resolve is the draw. I'm just going to try playing the Ruby Medallion. That resolves. Pass. Marsh Flats. Are you passing the turn? Do I actually get to keep my Ruby Medallion? No way. You're lying to me. We'll play Sandstone Needle. Pass the turn. I like the fact that Sandstone Needle makes multiple red mana. So that way next turn we could play double Ren's Resolve or whatever we want. They play land 3. There's the card. I'm forced to read it. Okay. So enchantment creatures you control have Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. Target non-aura enchantment, so anything that isn't attached to a creature, essentially, becomes a creature with its power toughness equal to its mana value. So this creature would become a 4... So their Leyline of the Guild Pact would become a 4/4 Death Touch, Lifelink, Hexproof for 2 mana. You got it. They have 3 cards in their hand. I would like a Seething Song. That would be a card that I think would be pretty good here. Force of Vigor on my Ruby Medallion. They have 1 card now. That's fine. We draw another mountain. I'll play Rail Monsoon Mage. And then let's Reckless Impulse. I trigger the Rail. Say Tails. I win the flip. No, I would not like to transform. And I hit another Reckless Impulse effect. Ren's Resolve. We'll play that. Say Tails again. I lose the flip. I lose a life this time. And I hit 2 more lands. Not the best. We will pass the turn. They have 2 cards in hand. They cycle a Lorien Revealed. Okay. For a Tundra. So you wanted to do something with that untapped mana. Interesting. So is your last card Leyline Binding? Can you cast Leyline Binding? Oh, yeah, they still have the Leyline of the Guild Pact in play. So I think their last card must be Leyline Binding if they're making this play. It doesn't make sense otherwise. So if I play this, I go to 8. Start off by playing my land. Play Ren's Resolve. Choose Tails. I lose the flip, I go to 9. Rite of Flame, we'll play that. Play Tails, I win the flip. No. Rite of Flame. We'll try a Ren's Resolve. This is spell number 3. I win the flip, I'll say no. Another Rail Monsoon Mage and another Reckless Impulse. So I could go Burning Wish into Will of the Jeskai, but my only mana is that Rite of Flame. So I'm guaranteed 3 more spells, which if I hit, it actually gives me a couple flips on the rail. I'll play the Burning Wish. We'll say Tails. I lose the flip. I go to 8. We'll grab Will of the Jeskai. I go to 6. We'll use the mana from Sandstone Needle. And now I'm going to give each instant and sorcery in my graveyard flashback. This is spell number 5. I lose the flip. Okay. I'll play Rite of Flame. This is spell number 6. So now any flip that wins transforms the Rail Monsoon Mage. I'll say yes. Rite of Flame. We'll ultimate the Rail minus the top 8. And I hit a Seething Song. So we'll play that for free. I can play Manamorphose for free. We'll say red, red. Another Wish. Another Manamorphose. This brings me up to 11 red mana. I feel like we have it from here. Let's play Defense Grid, just to make sure they can't do anything. Play Ruby Medallion. Okay. So at this point, I just need to not mess up. We'll play Wish for free, that's Storm 12. We'll play Reckless Impulse. It's a Manamorphose, we'll play that. I'm purposely not playing the Rail Monsoon Mage, because I don't want to accidentally die. Play Ren's Resolve from the graveyard. Ren's Resolve from the graveyard. It hits a Seething Song. We'll play that. Spell number 17. Reckless Impulse. Reckless Impulse. Spell number 19. We'll play Rite of Flame. Spell 20. Ren's Resolve. Another Rite of Flame. Spell number 22. Burning Wish can be spell number 23. And we'll go get some grape shots. Pew pew! We came back and got the match. How about that? All right. Well, that was a exciting match number 1. We happened to get there, which is what obviously we want to do. We got to play Will of the Jeskai a few times. Let me know what you think of the card in the comment section down below. But for now, we're going to hop on into match number 2. I'm sure we'll cast it there as well. Moxfield.com is the easiest way to build a Magic deck online. They support over 30 formats, including Legacy and many other Eternal formats. There are so many options to view decks the way that you want, from text view to individual cards, mana value, and even card price. There's also light mode and dark mode. My personal favorite feature is card tags. This way you can sort cards by function. Moxfield supports collection tracking, Scryfall search, decklist feedback, and so much more. Follow me on Moxfield.com so you can stay updated on all of my decks. Round number 2, we're on the draw. I'm going to choose to keep this hand. It's a little bit mana light, especially if this Jeska's Will doesn't convert into something useful, but I think we're still supposed to keep it. Our opponent has started off the game with a mulligan, and now they've mulliganed down to 5. Thespian Stage, Mox Diamond, okay, gets rid of Grove of the Burn Willows. So this Jeska's Will is already not mana. We'll play Sandstone Needle and pass the turn. Dark Depths, so I'm close to dead already. Ruby Medallion, that was a wonderful find. We'll play that. Player Mountain, Reckless Impulse. I need to hit some mana. Another Ruby Medallion and Ren's Resolve. We'll pass the turn. Okay, so they're going to be threatening lethal, assuming they have a land drop. No land drop, okay. Got a little lucky there. We find a land. I think we're supposed to start with Ren's Resolve. I find another land. We'll play the Ren's Resolve, see what we find. Manamorphose and a Wish. I'll tap the Sandstone Needle. We'll play the Manamorphose. We'll make 2 red. Defense Grid isn't very helpful here. So something I could do is Burning Wish and destroy the Mox Diamond to buy time. I'm not sure if that's something I want to do, but it's an option. I could also just Wish into Shattering Spree. I could also just play Ruby Medallion and then Ren's Resolve to set up for next turn. Making Will of the Jeskai 2 mana. I just hope that we're not dead. That's another option. If they didn't kill me last turn, I'm hoping they don't kill me this turn. Like, I think I'm dead to a crop rotation. Maybe not. No, because they would need a land to sacrifice, and they need both their lands. So now I will play Ren's Resolve, Defense Grid, and another Sandstone Needle. So far, it just seems like we're really light on mana. There's a Saga, so now they have the win. We find a Rite of Flame. We'll play that. Okay. I think I'm going to play Will of the Jeskai for the Past in Flames mode, and let's see if this resolves. They could crop rotation into Bazooka Bog. We'll see if they have it. They have 3 cards in their hand. They're going to tap the Urza Saga, so I'm guessing this is a Bazooka Bog turn. They're making a green, and now it's the crop rotation, and Bazooka Bog. Yep. So this buys me a turn, so I'm not dead. This will resolve, but ultimately do nothing. I think I'm going to play the Sandstone Needle, and then we'll play the Wish. I can't do anything with the Wish, but it gets to live in my graveyard, and now we'll pass the turn. They have a Karakas. Okay. Burning Wish is our draw. Well, Will of the Jeskai allowing us to play our top 3. It only costs 1 red. Seething Song, that was a wonderful find. The Karakas with Rail Monsoon Mage is a little awkward, but we'll play it anyway. Now we'll play Reckless Impulse. Trigger the Rail Monsoon Mage. We'll choose Tails, we lose the flip, Reckless Impulse, and we hit 2 more copies of Sandstone Needle? That could have been better. Alright, so we'll play Burning Wish here. Storm is now 5. One of those 5 Storm is the Rail Monsoon Mage, so it will not... So we're at 4 for flipping. We would like to use Burning Wish. We'll grab another Will of the Jeskai. Play my land for turn. And now we'll play Will of the Jeskai for 1 mana. This is the 6th spell, so I still don't want to transform the Rail Monsoon Mage. We'll play Seething Song. And now I can transform. We'll say Tails. We win the flip. I'll say yes. And I believe that this game is over now. I will minus the Rail. I'll play the other. We'll play Manamorphose for free. Trigger the Rail Monsoon Mage. They use the Karakas, sure. We win the flip, but it's no longer in play. I suppose I should have played a sorcery first so I could respond with the Manamorphose, but I think I've already won this game, and ultimately it doesn't really matter. I just need to finish casting spells now. We win the flip again, I'll say yes. We'll minus the Rail Monsoon Mage. And now look at all these spells. Alright, we'll play Rite of Flame and then another Rite of Flame. Seething Song, all the mana in the world. 14 cards left in our library. We'll play Manamorphose. 20 red mana. What could you do with 20 red mana? You could probably thin Dark Depths. Or, well, most of Dark Depths. I suppose Dark Depths is 30. To thaw it naturally. We'll play Wish. Play Burning Wish. I'll say yes. And spell number 20 will be Grape Shot. Pew pew! And that's game number 1 against lands. We would like the copies of Blast Zone, and then we'll board out 2 copies of Defense Grid. You still want Defense Grid because if our opponent is playing Mindbreak Trap, or even something like Force of Vigor, it's still useful. Like, am I excited to be playing a Defense Grid? Not really, but it can be a nuisance for the opponent. Game number 2, we're on the draw. I've opened up no lands. We have to mulligan. This seems like a keep to me. We'll get rid of Will of the Jeskai. Or is Will of the Jeskai better than Wish? It might be better than Wish. We'll try this. I like opening up double basic versus a deck that is a wasteland strategy, so that is pretty good to me. They open on Leyline of the Void. And I'm so happy here to have the Will of the Jeskai, a card that is versatile enough to beat a card like Leyline of the Void. Interesting. The Sandstone Needle, it allows me to play turn 2 Rail plus Reckless Impulse. We'll play the Needle. If they wasteland me, they wasteland me. They have 5 mana. Or, I'm sorry, 5 cards in hand, not 5 mana. They play Dark Depths plus Wasteland. Alright, so I'm going to lose my Sandstone Needle most likely. They're thinking here, maybe I'll get to keep my land after all. Are you really passing? Okay. I guess I get to play my Rail Monsoon Mage. And now I'll play Manamorphose. Trigger the Rail Monsoon Mage. I'll say Tails. We win the flip. I'll say no. Seething Song would be a card I would love to find. They're making 2 mana now. Disruptor Flute. Okay. So that explains why they didn't wasteland me. And now they name Rail Leyline Prodigy. I'm okay with that. I'll make 2 red mana. Ruby Medallion. Okay. We'll play the Ruby Medallion and then pass the turn. So I now expect my land to be destroyed, but that's fine. I got to accelerate my game plan. Ooh, maybe not. I suppose I get to keep my Sandstone Needle. We'll play Mountain. Tap the Needle. Let's play Rite of Flame. Spell number 1. I'll say Tails. We lose the flip. Let's Jeska's Will for mana. I mean, they have 3 cards in their hand here. It only cost me 1, so even if they play 1 card, it's still positive on mana. They're going to Crop Rotation in response. So they did play 1 card. And they grab a Yavimaya. Sure. And now another Crop Rotation. So the Jeska's Will looks to be a break-even now. And they can make a Merit Lodge on my end step. I'll say Tails. We win the flip. I'll say no. So Jeska's Will is a break-even. We'll play Reckless Impulse. Spell number 5. But they've played 2. So it's really spell number 3 for Rail Monsoon Mage, which I would have to Shattering Spree the Disruptor Flute. I do find Burning Wish. Okay. So I've really just played 3. So Burning Wish would be 4, Shattering Spree would be 5. So that's still a little bit short. I'm going to play Will of the Jeskai, where we'll discard our hand and draw 5. Well, each of us will. I'll say Tails. No, I don't want to transform. Yes, I would like to discard my hand and draw 5. And we hit mana, which is perfect. I'll play Seething Song. I'll say Tails. We win the flip. I don't want to transform quite yet. Let's play Burning Wish. In response, we'll play Seething Song. So this gives me 2 opportunities to transform. I'll say Tails. We win the flip. Yes. And now Rail Monsoon Mage. Say Tails. Burning Wish. We'll say yes. Grab the Shattering Spree. Destroy the Disruptor Flute. Minus the Rail Leyline Prodigy. Play another Seething Song. Play Ren's Resolve. And we'll Jeska's Will for cards. Whoops, I must have clicked the wrong one. Exile the top 3. Yeah, I clicked mana on accident, I think. Okay. And now I will play Ruby Medallion. And we'll play Will of the Jeskai, where we can each discard our hand and draw 5. I'll say yes. Storm is 15. We'll play Ren's Resolve. We'll play Manamorphose. Make 2 red. Reckless Impulse, Storm 18. Play a Defense Grid. I still have the other Defense Grid in my deck somewhere. The only thing I lose to at this point, I believe, is Mindbreak Trap. So if we can get to the point where I can Mindbreak Trap, I think it may, or get to the point where I can play another Defense Grid, I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if I can. I mean, I could discard my hand and draw 5, but I'm not sure if that's good. So I'm going to just play the Grape Shot, and if they do have Mindbreak Trap, hypothetically, I can still draw 5 and then try to win with Empty the Warrens plus Alchemist Gambit. Target you. Our opponent says GG's opponent. All right, well, we are now 2-0 in this Legacy League. Will of the Jeskai has looked phenomenal. I am so impressed with this card. Maybe we'll get the next 3. Stick around and find out if we do. Looking to make playing your favorite combo deck much easier? Look no further than the Epic Storm Mini Token Combo Pack, which is available at theepicstorm.com/shop for $14.99. This combo token pack comes with 84 double-sided tokens. That includes our classic Storm and Mana tokens, as well as fan favorites such as Goblins, Squirrels, and Slime Time Live. But that's not all. We've expanded this token pack to cover a variety of formats with new tokens. Stop on by theepicstorm.com/shop and make an easy decision to elevate your combo game. Round number 3, we're on the play. Let's try to get another match win. So this hand is incredible, but I don't have a red mana. That's the downside here. If I was to rip a red mana, this is a turn 2 win that's protected. I don't even know if Defense Grid is good in this matchup, though. We have 12 red sources. I think you're supposed to mulligan. I want to keep this hand, though. This hand is way worse. We'll go to 5. Keep. I don't think I'm allowed to keep Defense Grid when I'm on so few cards. And the Sandstone Needle. Play the basic mountain and pass the turn. Mistrise Village. So this is likely Omnitel. A matchup where if we had ripped the mana, our 7 would have been incredible. Another Ancient Tomb will play Reckless Impulse. The Force of Negation my Reckless Impulse. You've got it, friend. Yep. Okay. You don't see Force of Negation in the main deck of these Omnitel decks too often. They play a basic island. Paradigm Shift. Okay, so they're not on Omnitel? Main deck Flusterstorm, Thought Lash. So they must have Thassa's Oracle in hand. So I probably need to do something this turn. Okay. Oh, when we drew a land. Not good. We'll play Seething Song. Wow. Okay. Good hand. Double force plus a turn 3 win. Welcome to Legacy. You got me. I'm going to just resubmit the same configuration. I don't think we need to sideboard. It turns out I think our 7-card hand probably would have lost to that hand too. A turn 3 win with double force backup is pretty good against Ruby Storm. Game number 2, we're on the play. This hand isn't very good, but I don't think we're supposed to just mulligan aggressively with this deck. When you play a deck like Ruby Storm or Ad Nauseam Tendrils, and I lump those decks together because they don't play Echo of Aeons. And Echo of Aeons is a card that allows your Storm deck to mulligan hyper aggressively. When you don't have a card like that, you sort of have to keep these hands that are mid more often, where you're not excited to keep them, but they have lands and spells, and it's like kind of what you're supposed to do. So we have to hope that our opponent doesn't open up on the nuts again, and we get to play a longer game. We'll play our land, pass the turn. Basic Island, Sandstone Needle. Let's play Reckless Impulse. Defense Grid, I love that. Ancient Tomb, okay. Stock up. We're going to begin with the Manamorphose here. So by not playing our land first, we could be bluffing Ancient Tomb into Defense Grid. And now we'll play the Defense Grid. It finds Force of Negation. I'll play Sandstone Needle and pass the turn. They play Otawara as their land for the turn. They cycle Step Through. So they have Thassa's Oracle. And now a Paradigm Shift. So they're going to draw a card, and then next turn they can play Thassa's Oracle, so I have to win right now. If they have another force, I lose. 1 Force of Will, 2 Force of Will, 3 Force of Wills. They have a Force of Will in their hand. I'll play Ruby Medallion. We need this to resolve. Yeah, I mean, they just opened up on very good hands against us. Not a whole lot I could do. We'll cycle Manamorphose. Make a red mana. Make 2 red mana. Ancient Tomb. Cycle the Manamorphose. I suppose if I rip a Seething Song, there's a chance. Defense Grid doesn't do it. They're at 15. So Rite of Flame brings me up to 5. I could Will of the Jeskai floating 1, and then Rite of Flame Morphos, Morphos, Morphos. Or I could Will of the Jeskai drawing 5, and hope that those 5 cards win. It would almost have to be Rite of Flame plus other broken cards. Alternatively, I could Burning Wish into Alchemist Gambit and then untap. That's probably the move. Holy moly, did we just find it? Alright, so Burning Wish. And that actually gives me extra mana for Will of the Jeskai too. Do you have Double Force? I don't like this pause. I'll say yes. We'll grab Alchemist Gambit. Play the Alchemist Gambit. So now we get another turn where I can attempt to win. Seething Song. Okay. We'll play Seething Song. That was an incredible draw. I could play the Defense Grid, I just don't think I'm supposed to. All of the instants and sorceries in our graveyard gain flashback. We'll play Seething Song. I want to leave the Rite of Flame in there in case I draw into other copies of Rite of Flame. I'll play Reckless Impulse. Speaking of Rite of Flame, there's one. Okay, and now we'll play Manamorphose. Storm is now 6. Red, red. Ancient Tomb. More mana doesn't hurt. We'll play another Manamorphose. Storm number 7. Red, red. Another land. We'll play Manamorphose. Red, red. Burning Wish. Okay. They're at 15. So we'll play the one Rite of Flame. This makes 3 mana. So I have 10 total mana. And I'm 6 storm short. So if I Burning Wish for Will of the Jeskai, that's 2 more storms, so I'd be at 11. Rite of Flame would be storm 12. Wish would be 13. Grapeshot would be 14. So if I could play Defense Grid, I don't know if I have enough mana for that, though. So Burning Wish into Will of the Jeskai 6. And then Wish would be 9. Grapeshot would be 10, 11. Rite of Flame makes 1. So that doesn't work. I'd end up 1 mana short. I can't pass the turn. What to do, what to do? So I think I'm going to Burning Wish for Jeska's Will and then exile the top 3. I mean, I could grab Will of the Jeskai, but then I'd be down to 1 mana, which scares me. I'm not allowed to pass the turn or else we lose the game. The Will of the Jeskai would give Rite of Flame flashback, but that doesn't even really matter. It's just 1 mana. I think it has to be the Jeska's Will. Oh, here's an interesting thing. What if, hypothetically, we Jeska's Will for 2 mana going down 1 mana? And then, so right now we have 8, we would go down to 7. Burning Wish into Will of the Jeskai. That doesn't work. Never mind. Because I wouldn't have any mana floating. Alright, we're going to Jeska's Will, exiling the top 3. Storm 11. Ruby Medallion and Reckless Impulse. So Ruby Medallion brings me down to 3. I could Wish in a Grape Shop, but that's 1 short. So I need Reckless Impulse to hit mana. It's the only way I win this. Rite of Flame, Manamorpho, Seething Song. Those are the cards that win. Okay, let's see it. Reckless Impulse. We hit Seething Song. That'll do, Pig. That'll do. Seething Song. Now we'll play Ruby Medallion. Play Wish for 1 mana. Play the Grape Shot. We got there. Wow. Okay. We did it. Whew, starting to sweat a little. That was a nail biter. Now off to game 3. No changes. Send it back. The sideboard change of putting a Jeska's Will in the sideboard really paid off for us. Game number 3, I will keep. What I like about Rail Monsoon Mage in this matchup is that they can't Force of Negation it. Force of Will matters. We saw a Blue Elemental Blast in their exile game 2. That matters. Rail Monsoon Mage doesn't care about Flusterstorm. There's a lot of things to like there. They play an island. We will play Mountain past the turn. Ancient Tomb. Into stock up. Make up for that mulligan. They now have 6 cards in their hand. I wonder if this is a turn where I'm supposed to play Jeska's Will to bait out a Force of Will. Or a Force of Negation. Because I don't know if it's going to be better at any point. Alright, target you for 6 mana. The Force of Will, exiling a Paradigm Shift. That works for me. Pass the turn. They now have 5 cards in their hand. Another stock up. They play land number 3. They have 5 cards in their hand still. Grafdigger's Cage. You got it. We'll play Rail Monsoon Mage. That resolves. We'll play our land. And let's Reckless Impulse. We'll say Tails. We win the flip. No, I would not like to transform. In Ancient Tomb and another copy of Rail Monsoon Mage. Not the best Reckless Impulse, I will admit. They play Thought Lash. So if they have a Thassa's Oracle in their hand, they can win next turn. I don't know if they do, but it puts pressure on me to win now. We'll begin with Manamorphose. They have 3 cards remaining. I'll say Tails, we lose the flip. Manamorphose. We'll make 2 red mana and draw a card. Defense Grid. Let's play the Defense Grid. Defense Grid on the stack. Blue Elemental Blast on the Rail Monsoon Mage. Don't love seeing that. Play Ancient Tomb. Play the Rail Monsoon Mage. If they have Thassa's Oracle, we lose. I can't destroy enchantments. And I'm 1 mana short of Burning Wish into Alchemist Gambit. So I think we're all in on Ren's Resolve hitting like a Seething Song. Because Rite of Flame isn't even good enough here. I could Burning Wish into Galvanic Relay, but that assumes that we get another turn. Which we might, I just don't know if we do. I will play Ren's Resolve. Come on, Seething Song, pretty please. Tails. We win the flip. No, I don't want to transform. Seething Song, pretty please. Let's see it. We did not hit Seething Song. We'll play Ren's Resolve again. I'll say Tails. We win the flip. Why not? Let's say yes. Ren's Resolve. Because I have this rail in my hand. Oh, and there's the mana we needed. Oh, imagine if that was our last flip. We'll plus here and hope that we get to untap. Pass the turn. If we untap, I think we win. But I don't know if we get to untap. They're exiling a lot of cards here. They cycle a step through. We're dead. Ah, wow. Bummer. Yeah, we came just short. I'm not going to make them click through their entire library. But unfortunate. We lost match number 3. We were so close to winning. Our opponent, I feel like, drew fairly well all 3 games. But sometimes that's what happens in Magic. We also hit, pretty slim margins to win game number 2. So we also had some good fortune on our side. But c'est la vie. We lost a match. We are now 2-1. If you're still watching, make sure to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. While you're near the description, here's a reminder to use our affiliate links if you're going to make a purchase from Amazon, Card Hoarder, or TCG Player. Just above those affiliate links, you'll find our social channels. Make sure to join those to connect with us. For round number 4, and we're facing Magic Online villain Bosch and Roll. Terrible person. Never heard a good thing about them in my life. Just absolute villain. I'm kidding. Brian is a good friend of mine. In fact, we co-host the Eternal Glory podcast together. Go check that out. We're on the draw. I have no idea what Brian is playing today. Okay. The old Bosch and Roll with a 5-card hand. Tropical Island. We'll play Ancient Tomb and Defense Grid. It resolves! Let's go. 1 green mana for a crop rotation. Probably for Wasteland. Urza's Tower. Okay. Tropical Island. Snapcaster Mage. So we're playing a brew today. I'll play Sandstone Needle, pass the turn. Brian attacks with the Snapcaster Mage. I fall to 16. Planar Nexus now with 5 total mana. Okay. We will play a Rail Monsoon Mage. Player Rite of Flame for turn. Trigger the Rail. I'll say Tails. We lose the flip. Rite of Flame. We'll play Reckless Impulse. Say Tails. We win the flip. Say no. Reckless Impulse. Mountain. I'll try to Reckless Impulse again. This is the 3rd instant or sorcery of the turn. Say Tails. Lose the flip. Jeska's Will and Ruby Medallion. I think we just play Ruby Medallion and pass the turn. I do think there's a chance that this deck might need, Desperate Ritual in it. I'm just feeling a little mana hungry a lot of games. So I'm not sure if I want to change the deck. It's just I'm beginning to wonder about Desperate Ritual. Kozilek's Command for 2. Sure. So I can play the other copy of Rail Monsoon Mage out of my hand next turn. That's not a huge deal to me. Caracas. Well, that's annoying. Okay. How would we like to navigate this turn? I will begin with a Ren's Resolve. We hit a mountain. Play the mountain. And then I think I'm just going to Jeska's Will for cards. We hit Rite of Flame, so this makes 3. Okay. So Burning Wish into Will of the Jeskai. I have enough mana for that. Let's play that line. I think that's the line we go for here. Say yes. We'll grab Will of the Jeskai. And now we're going to play it. Will of the Jeskai. Brian, I hope your fans enjoy this one. So now we can play Rite of Flame. And now we'll play another Rite of Flame. Play Rail Monsoon Mage. Reckless Impulse. Trigger the Rail. We'll say Tails. Ooh. Brian auto-yielded and did not get to Caracas my Rail. Let's go. Too slow, Mr. Koval. And now we will... Oh, and Brian just concedes. Love it. Okay. The bad guy loses. The good guy wins at least game number 1. I have to imagine the defense grids are okay. I'm not positive. I don't hate the idea of Blast Zone, but I think I'm probably also okay just resubmitting. Game number 2 on the draw, we will keep. Our hand does the thing. Cloudpost. Wow, Seething Song was a great draw. We might have a turn 2 win. Ruby Medallion. Planar Nexus. Simic Signet. Okay. Jeska's Will. So mana is not a choke point here. Let's start with Jeska's Will for mana. Brian makes 2 mana for a Disruptor Flute. Sure. Burning Wish. What a name! Brian, you know me so well. So we could still play the Burning Wish. They just cost 3 more. So now we'll play Rite of Flame. Play Seething Song. And now a Burning Wish that costs roughly infinite mana. So if I get Shattering Spree, destroy this, Burning Wish into Will of the Jeskai, is that good? Need to think about this for a moment. So if I get Will of the Jeskai now, we can make a bunch more mana. And then I could play this Jeska's Will for cards. Alright, we'll grab Will of the Jeskai. So then I'll play Seething Song, play Jeska's Will for cards, and we bricked. That was the fear. Okay, so I mean, I could have emptied the warrants, but we know that Brian's a crop rotation deck, and I don't know if Tabernacle is a card that they're playing, so unfortunate. We ended up fizzling. Pass the turn. Another Cloudpost, and stock up. Okay. Another Disruptor Flute. Jeska's Will. It's a good name. We find a Will of the Jeskai, so I'll play my land for turn. And we're going to Will of the Jeskai here. This is definitely better than Past in Flames at the moment. I would like to discard my hand and draw 5, please. This card is very good. Brian keeps his hand. So I could go Rite of Flame, Rail Monsoon Mage, Reckless Impulse, and that would leave me with 1 mana floating. So I'd have to hit mana off of it. That couldn't be Jeska's Will. I think I'm going to just Reckless Impulse pass. Obviously, I hit the Seething Song. Alright, we'll pass the turn. A third Cloudpost. So this defense grid isn't doing a whole lot of good. Cloudpost taps for 4 mana. We see a stock up. Visagia who endures on my defense grid. Interesting. So I was just thinking that maybe Brian's not even playing spell-based interaction. And the fact that Brian can interact with, like, Cloudpost making 4 mana, like, Brian could easily just pay. We'll play Ruby Medallion. Let's try Seething Song. Rail Monsoon Mage. So Burning Wish costs 3 less. So I believe it just costs 2 mana now. Trigger the Rail Monsoon Mage. Say Tails. We lose the flip. Burning Wish. That resolves. Okay. Jeska's Will would cost a normal amount of mana. So I believe that's what we're supposed to grab here. I could grab Empty the Warrens, but I don't think that's right. In an effort to keep my red mana, I'm going to play Ancient Tomb first, and then we'll play Jeska's Will. The Rail Monsoon Mage trigger. I feel like the card Brian might have in his hand is actually consigned to memory. Do I want to transform now? I've played 5 spells this turn, one of which is a Ruby Medallion, the second is Rail, so it would flip with 3 counters, which is really far away, so I'm going to say no. We flip garbage again. I'll play Rite of Flame. See if I can flip the Rail this time. 5 mana. For a Kozilek's Command. Okay. We'll say Tails. We would have won! We would have won! Bummer. We'll play the other Ruby Medallion. Play this Rail Monsoon Mage. Pass the turn. Unfortunate. So we're all out of gas now. And we have to draw into something. If that something is a Burning Wish, my hand doesn't even do a whole lot. Well, I shouldn't say that. My sideboard doesn't do a whole lot. Like, I have Burning Wish into Galvanic Relay or Empty the Warrens at this point. I'm sort of out of stuff to do. Kozilek's Command. This will exile the Rail Monsoon Mage. Goodbye, Rail. And the One Ring. Okay. So we're pretty far behind at the moment. Seething Song is not going to get the job done. We'll pass the turn. Hull Breacher. Okay, I think I'm good to pick it up. We can go to the next one. Reckless Impulse, Wish. Actually, I had some gas coming. But the problem is that Brian had already turned the corner. So I have to keep in mind Hull Breacher with Will of the Jeskai. I do wonder if I had gone for Empty the Warrens if I would have won that game. We saw crop rotation, so there's a chance there is a Tabernacle in there. I just don't know. Alright, game 3 on the play. Good hand. Keep. Leyline of the Void. So in an effort to avoid consigned to memory, I'm going to play Ruby Medallion on the first turn. If I waited until turn 2, I could go Medallion, Sandstone Needle, Seething Song, and try to win. It's just a little risky. Well, I ripped the mountain anyway. Let's play Seething Song. Manamorphose. Red, red. Okay. Do I want to play Defense Grid? I think so. And now I can Burning Wish into Jeska's Will. Let's make some mana. Target you. And now we'll play Wish. And get Will of the Jeskai. And I'll draw 5. I'm going to cancel and make sure that I'm clicking the right mode. Draw 5. Floating 3 mana. Like I said, I think that this card is better than Past in Flames. I really do. Brian discarded his hand. Okay. Ruby Medallion. So I'm short of Wish into Empty the Warrens. I could Ren's Resolve trying to spike more mana. I think that's probably our best shot here. We'll play the Ren's Resolve. I could try to 50-50 on Rail. We'll play the Rail Monsoon Mage. 50-50 with Burning Wish. Fails. We win the flip. Say yes. We'll grab Grape Shot. Or is Galvanic Relay better? We'll grab Galvanic Relay. Minus the Rail Monsoon Mage. All we hit was Manamorphose, so I'm glad that I grabbed the Galvanic Relay. We'll make 2 red. Reckless Impulse, which hits a Rite of Flame. We'll play Ren's Resolve for free. Seething Song. So I can play Ruby Medallion and then the Seething Song. So that's 16 Storm. We'll play the Reckless Impulse or Ren's Resolve for free. Another Seething Song. Wish is 19. Grape Shot would be 20. I need 21. So I can Will of the Jeskai again to draw cards. Yes. I'm telling you, Will of the Jeskai is good. We'll play Rite of Flame and the Cyborg Grape Shot at Brian. GG's, Bosch and Roll. GG's. We got to do the thing. Take that. All right. We're now 3-1 with 1 match left to go. I am a pretty big believer in this list right now. Sometimes it does feel a little bit mana hungry, and Desperate Ritual is something you could look at, but I'll look again after the next match and decide if we even want to make a change. Hopefully we get match number 5. Stick around and find out if that's true. The best Legacy podcast? That would be Eternal Glory, featuring myself, Bryant Cook, alongside Brian Cobal and Phil Gallagher. We're available on all major podcast platforms and YouTube. The final round, we are on the draw. We will keep... I should have looked at my hand before I said we will keep, right? But yeah, we're going to keep this. All right, let's try to get a match. I'm just so excited about potentially finishing this league with a 4-1. Oh, I'm on the play? I guess I'm on the play. We will play Ancient Tomb and Defense Grid. I'm all sorts out of whack right now. Once upon a time, it finds Verdant Catacombs for a Bayou. Thoughtseize. So I'm going to lose my Burning Wish here. Goodbye, Burning Wish. Hey, we drew another. I'm going to play out this other Defense Grid. You might be saying, why would you do that? Your opponent's clearly not playing blue. Well, they might be an Endurance deck. And if I end up going for Will of the Jeskai, I want to be protected. Looks like they're on Cradle control. Noble Hierarch. And another Noble Hierarch. Okay. We'll play the Sandstone Needle. Pass the turn. So you might be wondering why not play the Burning Wish right now. I could. But I want to keep my options open. They tap for 3 green, 4 green. Is this a natural order? It is a natural order. So they had a very strong start. Turn 1 discard into turn 3 Atraxa. Not what I wanted to see here. And they find land plus Thoughtseize. That hurts. That hurts a lot. So even if I had played the Burning Wish for Will of the Jeskai, I actually would have been punished more. Because then if I draw Wish or Burning Wish going forward with 4 more in the deck, I wouldn't have a Will of the Jeskai. So they're drawing quite well. I have to hope that they take the Green Sun Zenith instead of the Thoughtseize. They take Collector Oof, Thoughtseize, and Swamp. So I have to imagine they're going to play the Thoughtseize, and they do. Surprise, I drew another Burning Wish. Okay, that hurts. Rail Monsoon Mage. I suppose we'll play it. Alright, well next turn I have to chain a number of spells in order to win, so I have to start by drawing an action spell. Ignoble Hierarch. Another Atraska can attack for 9. They play White of the Reliquary, sure. I mean, I either win or lose based on my draw step. I don't think any additional creatures really matter here. I suppose if for somehow they created lethal right now with like Natural Order and a Crater Hoof or something. So now they attack for 10, sure. Ouch. They're at 25, I'm at 6. Well, that's a start. We'll play Ren's Resolve, trigger the Rail Monsoon Mage. I guess every point of damage matters when I'm a Rail Monsoon Mage deck. We win the flip, I'll say no. Ren's Resolve. Another Ren's Resolve. So we're living on an edge here. We'll play the Ren's Resolve. I would like to find Will of the Jeskai, please. Play Tails. No. Ren's Resolve. Another Ren's Resolve. We'll play it. Come on, pretty please. Will of the Jeskai. Burning Wish. Okay. We'll play the Rite of Flame. Spell number 4. We win the flip. Say no. Play Burning Wish. Say Tails. We win the flip. Unfortunately, this is one spell short of being good enough. So I'll say yes. And now we'll grab Will of the Jeskai. Right? That's the spell I want? I just want to think through this real quick. Yeah, I think that's the card I want. So if I tap the Ancient Tomb, Will of the Jeskai would cost 2. So is it worth it to play this? I think so. Hold on. So if I tap like this, I still have 2 mana available. If I play Ruby Medallion first, I have 1 mana. And then nothing else in the graveyard gets reduced. So maybe I'm supposed to just do this then. Will of the Jeskai. Trigger the Rail Monsoon Mage. We'll say Tails. We lose the flip. Okay, that's not good. Rite of Flame. We need to win a flip now. Say Tails. We lose the flip. We won like 4 in a row, and now we're going to lose the game, I feel like. Play Ren's Resolve. Say Tails. We lose the flip. It's going to happen. We're going to lose 4 flips in a row and lose this game. Ren's Resolve. Say Tails. We lose the flip. No! Why? Oh, Magic is a cruel, cruel game. It let me get so close to winning and then took it away. We'll take out 2 defense grids. We'll bring in 2 Blast Zone. We'll try this out. Oh, that was just mean. That was so mean, deck. Why would you do that to me? Also, if we had lost the first 3 or 4, I could have and then won the next 4. We probably win that game. Because I could have chosen to not tap the Ancient Tomb and then Burning Wish for a Grape Shot or something and prayed that I flipped. Probably not Grape Shot. I probably would have gotten Shattering Spree or Galvanic. I would have saved the Grape Shot for later, but you know what I mean. Game number 2, we're on the play. No mana. This seems fine. I think you're supposed to bottom the Jeska's Will. Alright, Jeska's Will to the bottom. They open on Leyline of the Void. So the question is, am I supposed to just go Rite of Flame into Ruby Medallion to avoid Thoughtseize? I think so. It could be a little risky if I get hit by a Force of Vigor or something. But I think having Ruby Medallion in play is so crucial that I don't want to I don't want to risk it being discarded. They play Wooded Foothills, Bayou, and there's turn 1 Thoughtseize. They take Ren's Resolve, okay. Jeska's Will. So this would make 5 mana. I can Will of the Jeskai here. Let's make 5 mana. Play the Burning Wish. Yes. Grab Will of the Jeskai. And now we'll play it to draw 5, floating 1 mana. Yes. They discard their hand. And we draw 5 cards that don't win the game. So I'll play Ren's Resolve and then pass the turn. Rite of Flame Manamorphose. Those are good cards. Verdant Catacombs, and another copy of Thoughtseize. They take Will of the Jeskai, and now they're fetching with the Verdant Catacombs for a Bayou. Ignoble Hierarch. Okay. They're at 14. We find Wish. Not a bad draw. Let's begin with Rite of Flame. Manamorphose. Make 2 red. Let's play Ren's Resolve. It's another Reckless Impulse. We'll play that. Rail, Monsoon Mage, and Seething Song. Okay, we'll play the Rail. Play Seething Song. This is the 5th instant or sorcery, so not quite good enough to win yet. They have Snuff Out. Okay. So their draw 5 was incredible. Thoughtseize and a Snuff Out. So if I play Ruby Medallion into Wish, I can then empty the Warrens for a bunch. My fear is Force of Vigor, but if their last 2 cards in hand are green card Force of Vigor, you deserve this win. We'll play Wish. And now... Actually, I just have Lethal. Grape Shot wins the game. Because they're at 10. Storm 10, Grape Shot for Lethal. Who needs a graveyard? Alright, so now we go to game number 3. Resubmit the same configuration. Game 3, our opponent has kept 7 cards. I think I'm actually going to keep this hand. I know that it doesn't seem incredible, but our opponent is on the play. If I mulligan for a really good hand, we're probably just going to be hit by Thoughtseize anyway. And my plan here is that I already have tons of mana, speaking of Thoughtseize, and I already have tons of mana. Like, what are they going to discard? Jeska's Will? Sure. But my point is, if I draw a Burning Wish or anything else, my hand is very live. And in the meantime, if they try to play a bunch of dorks, I can blast zone them into the dirt. That's at least my approach here. So I am just going to trust the top of my deck to get me there. And having a bunch of mana, even if they play multiple copies of Thoughtseize early, my hand should be okay. They play a basic forest, ignoble hierarch, and another hierarch. So I can't blast zone right now, but I could next turn. We'll play Ancient Tomb, pass. Drawing land number 6 wasn't ideal. I will admit, I would have preferred a spell there. Is this a natural order? Is that why you played out your creatures? Green Sun Zenith for 2. The Green Sun Zenith finally resolved. They grab a white of the Reliquary and then attack with the Ignoble Hierarch. We'll draw another land. Wow. That's a lot of lands. When I kept this hand, I wasn't planning on drawing more lands, but that's how it's panned out. We're going to use the Blast Zone immediately. Pass the turn. They grab a Dryad Arbor, and they hard cast a Once Upon a Time. They find another copy of White of the Reliquary. They play Bayou. Another white, so now they can attack for 4, putting me down to 12. And then they could sacrifice the Dryad Arbor on the end step. So if they do that, they could grab another Dryad Arbor. I'm actually pretty close to dead. So next turn they have 5. These would be 5/5s, and then if they have another Dryad Arbor, it's actually just lethal. And I imagine most lists play 2. We're just drawing garbage. Nothing but garbage. Okay, we'll cycle Manamorphose. Have to hope for something that's live here. Another land. Play the Defense Grid, I guess. Play the Sandstone Needle and pass the turn. We should be dead, assuming our opponent knows how to count. They should just sacrifice the Dryad Arbor, get another Dryad Arbor, attack. Once they're attacking, sacrifice that Dryad Arbor, and it's lethal. They sacrifice the Dryad Arbor, and there's the other. They play Lair of the Hydra, and now they swing, and they know the line. All right, so that's going to conclude our league. I am disappointed with how we drew in this game. Like, we drew 3 additional lands after keeping a 5-lander and then Defense Grid. That is way below average. But, that was the risk with keeping the hand. It happens. So, what did I think of the deck list? I loved it. I really did. So, yes, I do think the deck is really mana hungry. So, if you were interested in adding in Desperate Ritual, I think you're supposed to move the Defense Grids into the sideboard. You would probably cut the Mindbreak Traps. And maybe even the Blast Zones. I don't know if I love that, though. And then that's how you would fit in a few copies of Desperate Ritual. You could also do, 2 Desperate Ritual, and then move, 2 Defense Grid into the sideboard, keeping 2 in the main deck. I'm not sure. But I also think the deck list was pretty good overall. We hit some bad variants in a few spots that will happen, but I genuinely loved it. I thought the deck was great today. I was super impressed by Will of the Jeskai. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comment section down below. I really do appreciate all of you that actually watch the videos. I just wanted to say that. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Keep storming. If you enjoyed today's video, you might also like the Eternal Glory podcast featuring myself, Bryant Cook, alongside Bosch and Roll, Brian Cobal, Anthraven Yu, Phil Gallagher, as we discuss legacy concepts, theories, strategies, and so much more. We're available on all major podcast platforms, as well as YouTube. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.